Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Lindsay.
And I'm Danielle, your resident romantic. And we're friends.
Till the bookends. And we are a booktube duo who are really excited to be here to bring you some awesome content.
Thank you for tuning in and joining us again. And what's the I guess it's December. That's right, it is December 1st, and what best way to kick off this month than with a video featuring our December TBRs. These are the books that we want to hopefully read by the end of December.
Without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. I don't know about you guys, but when I hit December, I look back and realize that I have a whole ton of sequels that I never got to this year. I am terrible about reading sequels, but it's something that I would like to try and change my habits around. December is usually a TBR that is filled with a lot of sequels. The first sequel that I want to get to in December is The Faithless Hawk by Margaret Owen, which is the second book in the Merciful Crow series. In the first book, we're following Fi, who is the chieftain of her clan, and in this society, it is heavily stratified. All of the castes are kind of based off of different birds. So at the top you have your hawks and your eagles, who are the top of society, and at the bottom you have the crows. And the crows are known for being mercy killers because there's a plague that is sweeping through the lands, and the crows are actually the only group of people who are immune to it. So oftentimes they are called to villages to kill people who have the plague or to get rid of dead bodies. They are very much looked upon down in society, and so Fi and her crew get called to the royal castle to dispose of two bodies, one being the prince and the other being his bodyguard. But once they smuggle the bodies out of the castle, it is discovered that the prince and his bodyguard are not actually dead, but they needed an excuse to leave the castle because the queen was plotting to kill them both. Fi and the prince and his bodyguard all team up together to kind of get the prince to safety, and in return, the prince promises that when he becomes king, he is going to help the crows and better them in society. So we're kind of following them throughout this whole book. This is the second book in the series. I thought that the first one ended on a pretty good note, but I'm sure that the title of this book, if you've read the first one, alludes to perhaps a little bit of switching sides or some treachery. So I'm very excited to get to this sequel in December. The next sequel that I need to get to is Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab, and this is the second book in her City of Ghosts middle grade series. In the first book, we're following Cass, who had a near-death experience, and when she was kind of brought back from the dead, she discovered that she could see ghosts. And not only that, she kind of brought someone back with her from the dead, a ghost named Jacob, who kind of becomes her best friend. Cass's parents sign a contract to have a kind of paranormal ghost hunter show, which is ironic because they don't know that Cass can see ghosts. So Cass and her family and Jacob all head to Edinburgh, Scotland in the first book to look at the history of the city and see if it's really haunted or not. And there they run into a very nefarious ghost and the plot ensues. In this book, the group is heading to Paris to look at the catacombs under the city, and it sounds very spooky, and I'm definitely excited to read it in December. The next sequel that I need to get to is Heart of Flames by Nikki Pau-Preto, and this is the sequel to Crown of Feathers, which I read earlier this year. Crown of Feathers was such a good book, I ended up giving it 4.5 stars, so I'm very excited to get to this. And essentially, this is a book that is following Phoenix Riders. In the first book, we see that in the society, Phoenix Riders have kind of died out because all the phoenixes have been killed and there are none to kind of lead into battle. So Phoenix Riders kind of fall to the wayside. But we're following Veronica and her sister, who descend from a long line of Phoenix Riders, and they are trying to find Phoenix eggs so that they can hatch them and kind of bring Phoenix riding back to the forefront and reclaim their land. And Veronica and her sister have a fight, and they end up splitting ways, and Veronica decides that she is going to infiltrate an all-male phoenix riding society. So she dresses up as a boy to get access to it, and the plot goes from there. I loved the first book. I think it ended on such a cliffhanger. It had a really cool twist that I didn't see coming. I'm really excited to see where this one's going to take us. And she's a chunker, so it's probably going to take me a little bit to get through it. The next book that I want to get to in December is One by One by Ruth Ware. And this is a book that I've actually heard kind of mixed things about. I've only read one other Ruth Ware book before. Turn of the Key, and I absolutely adored it. So I do have high hopes for this one, but I've heard that it's a little basic and the plot is predictable. But I've also heard it compared to an Agatha Christie novel, and I absolutely love Agatha Christie books. So I think I am going to enjoy this. So essentially we're following a work retreat who decides that they're going to have a little kind of work retreat in the French Alps. But when they get there, they get snowed in, and I think that one by one, they're going to start getting picked off and murdered. I'm definitely really excited for this. It's got a very obviously winter atmosphere, and I think it's going to be a really good book to read in the month of December. The next book that I would like to get to is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I have read A Man Called Uwe, and I definitely really liked his writing style, and I've heard that this is his best book. I don't know too much about this book. I know that it is following a town who is kind of on the brink of collapse, and the only thing holding them up is their junior boys ice hockey team, and they are going to be competing and kind of bringing money and prestige back to this town, so all of their hopes are riding on this hockey team. There's some sort of traumatic event that happens between the hockey team and a girl, and I believe that there are going to be trigger warnings for sexual assault in this book. I think the book is going to be kind of following the town as they pick sides as to who do you believe what happened, you know, what story are you going to believe, and how they're going to heal from something like this. It's probably going to be, you know, a hard-hitting contemporary book, and I wouldn't say I'm enjoying it. I don't want to enjoy the book necessarily, but I think it's going to be a very important social commentary, and I'm definitely excited to read it in December, and I'm sure it's going to be excellent. The two books that Danielle and I are buddy reading together, we have two of them. One of them is Dash and Lily's Book of Dares. This is a book that came out quite a while ago, but neither of us have read it. It has recently been turned into a Netflix TV show, so we wanted to read the book together and then watch the TV show and kind of compare the two and figure out which one we like the most. So stay tuned for that video because that will be coming your way. I don't know too much about this book. I know that it follows a girl named Lily who leaves a book of dares in a bookshop, and she's just waiting for the right boy to pick it up and follow those dares, and that boy may happen to be Dash. I think it's going to be a very cute, Christmassy, kind of fluffy contemporary, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. And the other book that we are going to be reading together is The Afterlife of Holly Chase. This is a book that is following a girl named Holly who 5 years ago was visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. And basically they told her that if she didn't change her ways, she was going to die. And she didn't listen to them, so she ends up dying and becomes one of these Christmas spirits. For the past couple years, she and these other spirits have been going to kind of Christmas misers and people who need to change their ways and telling them that this is kind of their last shot to ship up or shape out. This year is different though because they're going to be following a teenage boy. And I believe that Holly is very much invested in this. I'm definitely looking forward to reading this book. I've heard nothing but good things about it.
The first two books that I want to read in December is Venom and Belladonna by Fiona Paul. Venom was a book that I first read, at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago. I remember reading it, and I don't remember a whole lot of the details in it. I just know I really loved the romance that was involved with it. I do remember that there is essentially a murder that happens, and there's a lot of mystery and thriller with that. The main female character comes across a guy who's alluring, and she wants to work with him and get to know him. I believe that there is a caste system here, and if I recall correctly, he's part of the lower tier and she is part of the higher tier, so there is that kind of differentiation between them that makes it even more alluring to see them get together. I remember reading it, and I thought this was a standalone, and then I think a year or two later, I was shopping at one of my favorite bargain outlets, and I saw this, and I realized that there was more to the story than just the first book. As I was picking these up to decide to put them onto the video today, I realized that it is actually called The Secrets of the Eternal Rose series. So I'm not sure if there's actually more than these two books. I haven't done the research, but I'm at least going to read these two to A, remind myself about what this story was like and see if I still like it as much as I did back then, and B, see how the story continues. I also want to do the research, and if there are more books in the series, I'm definitely going to either get them from the library or go out and buy some because I'm very curious to see how this goes. The next book I do hope to read in December is called Love Lettering by Kate Claiborne. Just based off of the cover alone, it gives me a very wintry December vibe, and so I think it's going to be fitting given the season. I'm also interested because based off of the back cover, there is this guy Reed who is planning on marrying his fiance. And for whatever reason, Meg, who is pretty much famous for her lettering skills, and I'm assuming she writes either the invitations or something like that, Meg somehow finds out that there's something devious about Reed's fiance, and she slips a little note into whatever it is that she participates in with the wedding. But essentially, Reed finds this, as Meg hopes, and Reed calls off the wedding. A year later, Reed comes back, and he wants information from Meg. He wants to know how she knew everything bad was going to happen, how she knew what she knew. It sounds like she has writer's block or something of that nature that she's struggling with at the same time. It sounds like they're going to be unfolding all of their problems while also working to help the other, and it sounds like there's going to be a budding romance that comes from that. So I'm very excited for it. I can already picture myself curling up in my reading chair with a nice cup of hot cocoa and probably 3 or 4 blankets curled around me, sitting in front of the window. Fingers crossed I'm going to be reading it on a snowy day, just because I feel like that would make it even better, but we will see how it goes. Number 4 on my to-be-read list this month is Quarantine, a love story by Katie Cicatelli-Cook. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. I believe this is her debut novel. It focuses on 2 people, Oliver, who is just trying to get home for spring break, and Flora, who wants to stay as far away from home as possible. She makes up this disease called tropical mono and spontaneously kisses Oliver, I believe either on an airplane or at the airport. And so now they're both stuck quarantining together for 30 days, which, as you can probably guess, they end up falling for each other. All of this time spent together is hopefully going to lead to something. Based off of the back cover, I'm not sure if this is a college-aged book or more of a high school-aged book, given that there is a spring break involved. Even if it ends up being an awful story, I think it is very fitting given COVID right now, so I just thought it would be really cool to read, see how it turns out, see how the love story progresses. Usually in books like these, where the 2 main characters are stuck together for a long time, I've seen it go 50-50. Some authors write it really well, really tantalizing, really exciting, really thrilling, and then other authors kind of fall short of my expectations when writing, so I'm very curious to see how this is going to do. Last, but most certainly not least, on my to-be-read list is Stay With Me by J. Lynn, aka Jennifer L. Armentrout. For those who know her, when she writes in J. Lynn, those are her adult books. She does tend to have a very romance-centered writing when it comes to adult books. I'm very excited to see how this is going to go. Given the cover, I feel like I'm going to be going on a very wild and tantalizing ride. Based on the back cover, it focuses on 21-year-old Calla. She essentially has little to no experience in a lot of standard things. She hasn't gone to the ocean, she's never been kissed before, but she's had a lot of emotional trauma growing up. Her mother is very strung out all the time and winds up running away with all of Calla's saved up money, and she's destitute. She doesn't know what she's going to do. In walks Jax, this rich, powerful man who's essentially going to save her, sweep her off her feet. I believe he also helps her get a job. This is one of the books where the back cover does mention that she has to go through all of the scars she has in order to fall in love with him. This book also, to me, can go 50-50. If I didn't know the author, I would be a little nervous about this because I've seen some adult romance books that do have a focus on healing from previous scars to move on with a loved one, and they can get very distracting. They can not handle the inner turmoil well. They can't handle a proper build of a relationship well. The story just doesn't get built properly because while a lot of people all around the world do have to deal with emotional scars in order to move on in a relationship, I have found that books don't reflect that properly. If I didn't know the author, I would be very hesitant to read this book and see how they're going to handle the emotional healing side of going into a relationship. Given that it's J. Lynn, I'm not as skeptical. I'm curious to see how much time is going to be spent on the relationship, how much time is going to be spent on personal growth, and how those two intertwine together. I've also seen other books like this where it focuses on emotional growth and it focuses on relationship growth, and instead it ends up just being trash. You're not actually emotionally growing, you're damaging the relationship more, and those books just leave me unhappy. They make me feel like I waste my time. So with Jaylin, I'm a little less skeptical. I'm hoping it's going to go well. I'm hoping it is going to give me some very smutty pages to read, but we will see.
That is it for our December TBR. We hope you enjoyed the video.
Let us know in the comments what books you plan to read this December, or if some of your TBRs are the same ones as ours. Let us know what you're looking forward to. Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and make sure to click subscribe so you can get notifications of when we post all of our future videos.
So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.